Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to show you the forgotten maintenance items that I've seen people over the years forget to do, and then it ended up costing them a small fortune in many cases because they didn't do them. Now, one of the most forgotten things that's easy to do is to keep clean power steering fluid in your car. It lasts a long time, but it's a good idea every 4 or 5 years to replace it. Because if you don't, you can end up like this Honda van. It's the power steering rack that's leaking and broken. As you can see, it is an insane job to replace this thing. Because they build it by putting the rack on, then putting the engine and transmission and the motor mount on top of this power steering rack. Now here's the new one going on, but as you can see, I got jacks all over the place. I got to jack up the engine, the transaxle, and even had to drop the subframe in the front down some to get enough clearance. All because the idiots who designed it, this is the bottom of the back motor mount. It goes over the power steering rack, and to get that off, you got to drop the subframe, you got to jack the engine and transmission around. It is a royal pain in the rear end. The power steering racks use power steering fluid. Some of them are upwards of 1,500 pounds per square inch. If the fluid gets dirty, it becomes like a cutting fluid. High pressure, dirt, friction, and it can cut through the seals and make it leak. All you need is a turkey baster like this. Suck the reservoir out until it's empty. Then pour in power steering fluid. In this case, it's genuine Honda power steering fluid. Honda is very particular about what they use. You want to use Honda stuff in a Honda. Fill it up, drive it around 5 minutes. Then suck it out again to the reservoir. Do that 5 or 6 times and you'll get most of the fluid out, and it'll be clean fluid. Because you don't want to have to replace a leaking power steering rack because of dirty fluid. Fluid doesn't cost that much. It's an easy job you can do yourself. Just do it every 4 or 5 years or so if you keep your cars a long time. Now the next thing that's all forgotten is your air filter. How does the saying go? Out of sight, out of mind. Air filters are hidden, you don't see them, but they get dirty. And when they get dirty, you don't suck enough air in the engine. Cars burn thousands and thousands and thousands of square feet of air burning gasoline. If that filter's clogged up, you're not going to suck enough air in, you're going to use more gas, plus it's going to run poorer too. Quite a few times I've had customers bring me cars because they failed the state inspection. And the only thing that kept them from passing was a clogged air filter. When I took it out, it was just covered in black. So, check it every once in a while. If you live in an area where it's really dusty, you can take it out, you can whack it on a bumper, you can suck it with a vacuum cleaner to get the dirt out and use it over, but make sure that you got it clean. My advice is stick a spare one in your truck just in case. You don't want to wear your engine out because you got a dirty air filter. Yes, you can't see it, it's hidden away, but check it every once in a while, especially if you live in a dusty area. Like we get these dust storms that blow in from Africa here in Houston. They go the whole way over the Gulf, come over here. They clog them up big time with little particles of sand and dust. So you want to check your air filter at least once every 5-6 months. It's no big deal on most cars. Now the next forgotten maintenance item is the cabin air filter. Yes, many cars have cabin air filters. This one's hiding down in here. It's easy to get to. Watch this. We'll just squeeze this, squeeze that, out it comes. Inside here is the cabin air filter. It just comes out, you take the cover off, and you pull it out. And lo and behold, it's full of crap. And why is it full of crap? Because Scotty's been a bad boy and doesn't check it. Plus, he parks under this tree, Chinese tree of life. Those little needles are always falling off, and they end up here. So, you can whack them off. Later, I'm going to vacuum this off with the shop vac, get the crud out. It's a charcoal one, which filters better, gets rid of smells, and it's really reusable because you can keep cleaning and use it over. A lot of these companies charge a fortune for these stupid little things because, ooh, it's a cabin air filter, it's special. Probably cost a nickel to make one of these things. So you might just buy a K&N and you can use it over and over again and clean it versus buying a $15, $20 paper one that's going to wear out faster and then you got to keep buying them. Yeah, these cost more, but in the long run, you're making out. Just make sure you put them in some way. This was the dirty part, so it's the top. It just slides inside. This one's a different size each angle, so you gotta find the right one. Just make sure that end's pointed up. Then you get the clip that fits in here and snap it in place. Now the next maintenance item people often forget about is your wiper blades. Put them on, forget about them, and when it rains they use them, and half the time they won't work. You just need to clean them every once in a while so that they last longer and wipe right, and it's real easy. Just get a glass with a little bit of water in it, then pour the same amount of alcohol in there. Just about the same amount, pour it in, there you go. Then get a clean shop towel like this, shake it up a little, wipe it a bunch of times. Look at all the crap that came off of it. Then you wipe all that off, and you got a nice clean blade that's gonna last longer. Now I used to use pure alcohol, but I learned my lesson. I talked to a detailing expert and he says you wanna mix half water and half alcohol. The alcohol can actually do too much damage to the rubber on the blade. Well, when you mix them, it cleans it and it doesn't really take off too much. So half water, half alcohol. And the next forgotten thing is tire pressure. Check your tire pressure every once in a while, cold first thing in the morning. Your car is riding on air. If you get low on air, you can have problems, you get worse gas mileage, it's dangerous, you can get flats, you can get blowouts. Simple thing. Get a good gauge, stick it in your glove box, and check it maybe once a month or something. You never know if you got a nail or something's going on. Just check them. Maybe once a month, it's no big deal, but do it cold first thing in the morning. That's the truest reading. Now the next item is like beating a dead horse, but it's got to be said. Change your engine oil. Change it regularly. Engines cost sometimes over $10,000. Oil is a lot cheaper. Friction will ruin your engine. Just make sure you change it regularly. And if you don't drive much, change it once a year. I've got videos on the whole thing, but if you don't do any maintenance on your car except for one thing, change the engine oil. And the same thing is true of your transmission oil. If you have an automatic transmission where you can easily change the fluid yourself, change it every 40, 50,000 miles. I don't care if they say it's a lifetime fluid. Now, if you do have one of those transmissions where it's a real job to change it, pay a mechanic to change it. For the little amount of money you pay to change it, you find out that a modern computer-controlled transmission, I've seen some of them cost $5,000 or $6,000 to either rebuild or replace with a rebuilt unit that you trust was rebuilt correctly, who knows. You want to change that fluid too. Just get a little book, write it down. Make sure that you're not going to forget this. And your brakes, they stop your car, they save you. Most people don't even think about them. Check them every once in a while. If they're getting too thin, replace the pads. You can see on these, they're still really thick. That's the pad part here. That's the backing. And the rotors that they squeeze, sometimes they will warp. How do you check that? It's simple. Drive down a highway going 65 when hardly anybody's around. Then firmly apply your brakes. If your steering wheel starts to shake, generally that means your rotors are warped, and it makes the steering wheel shake because it's pushing in and out. It's only a few thousandths of an inch, but when you're going 65 miles an hour. Now, if you find that you hit the brakes and the steering wheel doesn't shake, but the brake pedal pulsates, then that just means that your rear rotors are warped and they need replacing. And while you're at it, if you got a really old car, check the rubber brake hoses. If they're starting to crack and flake, change them before it's too late. Now, they're well made and they can take a lot of pressure. But when they do start to crack before they start leaking, replace them. And if you look at them and they're all wet, they definitely need replacing. Now, this thing's got a little surface rust because it came from up north, but the hose itself is fine. You see cracks, or if it's all wet from leaking brake fluid, change them out right away. Now, yet another forgotten maintenance item is the coolant in your radiator. If you keep your car a long time, you need to change your coolant. Now, let's say you got a modern Toyota. It comes with a hose that can last 7 years or 150,000 miles. So you don't have to change it all that often. But you keep them longer than that, you want to change them. You can easily change it out yourself. It's also better to take out the thermostat and then you can hose it through and get everything out. And then replace it with the longest life coolant you can buy for your car, because then you won't have to think about it probably ever again. I mean, if you got 150,000 mile coolant and you change it to 450, geez, most cars aren't going to go 300,000 miles anyways. Read your car's coolant to make sure what yours has, because there's all kinds of different ones out there. Now, yes, most batteries these days are sealed batteries like this. You can't add water, so you never have to worry about that. You want to check for corrosion. If you see corrosion on the terminals, you want to clean it off. And in this case, you can see they're naked. There's nothing under the terminal. What I advise is getting those green and red fiber washers that go under there, and they absorb the acid that comes out so it doesn't corrode anything. This particular battery is so good it isn't leaking acid vapor, so it hasn't corroded at all. But most batteries are going to leak a little, so if you put those little washers on, it'll keep it from corroding all your electronics. Because any corrosion, that'll inhibit the voltage flow. That'll cause problems. It'll overheat stuff. Things won't work right. And, of course, batteries just wear out over time. So, once every year or two, just have a guy like me or a good auto parts store check your battery. It takes 1 minute. They just hook them up and turn them on. Watch how fast it tests this. It's a 640 cranking amp battery. Here we go. This is live in real time. Good battery. It's got 636 cold cranking amps. 100% state of charge. Simple test. Everything runs by computers. Your battery voltage is low, you can get all kinds of problems. The alternator can work too hard. It can cause shorts if the battery is really shorting out. If you smell sulfur under the hood, you know the battery's sulfating, it's time for a new one. But just check it every once in a while. They don't last forever, and you do need to test them every so often. So now you know the most commonly forgotten simple maintenance items that can keep your car from having serious, expensive problems down the road with just a little of your time and a tiny amount of your money. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.